Hello, I'm President Deniz A. Erdal. Thank you for joining us for the first episode of the Fireside Cast, the official presidential podcast of the UAHS class of 2021. Join me every Friday for an analysis of events here in Upper Arlington and across the globe. Hi, I'm President Deniz A. Erdal. Thank you for joining us for the first episode of the Fireside Cast. Today, we will be discussing the recent power outage that occurred last Thursday. I'm joined in the studio by Ryan Huntley to discuss this topic.
Hi, Dennis. Thanks for having me here. Anyone who's here last Thursday, it was Thursday, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So anyone who was here last Thursday will remember the rather unexpected power outage during 8th period. About 20 minutes, would you say, about how long it lasted? Is there an official time for that?
I believe it was 20 minutes to about half an hour.
20 minutes, yeah, it's about half an hour. So the power outage that occurred during 8th period for around 20 minutes or a half an hour. What sort of implications do you think this has? I mean, we've had all sorts of power outages and emergency situations over the last 2 years, speaking for the class of 2021 at least. A string of fire emergencies last year, as well as a power outage that occurred last year. I remember a particularly long power outage. And now this, along with the evacuation we had a few weeks ago, what kind of implications do you think this has for our class?
Well, frankly, I think it's just absolutely pathetic. It is unacceptable for a city like Upper Arlington to be experiencing such events like this. I mean, we pay one of the highest taxes in Franklin County. I mean, they're building the new school, but they should still keep care of the old one, because we still have to use it. I mean, everyone in the class of 2021 still has to use this building.
Yeah, as the last class in the that's going to be graduating from this building, having gone there all 4 years, I mean, I know that opinions throughout the class of 2021 regarding the subject are not particularly high.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, just playing devil's advocate here. It is an old school. There's only so much that the administration or the city can do to take care of this building at this point in its life. I mean, particularly considering the fact that we do have the new school coming up within the next 3 years. I don't know how wise of a decision it would be to spend a large amount of money on maintaining this the current school, given that the new school is being built in just 3 years. But
now, I don't think we need to spend a ton of money here rebranding the old school. I think we need to maintain it. You know, the paint job they did in the cafeteria and upstairs in the entrance to the auditorium, I think that was absolutely unnecessary, a waste of money. However, I mean, keeping the power on and not having random gas leaks, I think these are pretty major issues that still need to be maintained. Now, the school already gets a lot of funding, and plus, a tax levy was just passed last year to build the new school, and so I think rather than spending money on painting a school that's going to be torn down in 3 years anyway, we should maintain the pipes and the wires. However, the recent power outage, I believe that was actually a problem with the AEP.
Yeah, it was community-wide.
community-wide, but I still think the school should at least have backup generators so we can continue.
And
class.
just a completely different issue here. In relation to this paint job that they've implemented, I mean, I completely agree with you that this money could have gone in any sort of direction, whereas there's only so much money that can go towards maintaining the school itself. They've also changed a snack bar into a deli. Just in my personal interest, what's your opinion there?
Well, I mean, I have had multiple sandwiches from there while waiting for water polo. I mean, I guess they're all right. I do like it, frankly, and I think it's part of the school's strategy to cope with closed lunch, which I think is absolutely unnecessary.
I've heard this argument many times over. As far as my own opinion of the closed lunch measures go, I mean, I think it's an interesting solution. I don't think that it's a permanent solution. I don't know how far it would go. I know that other schools have implemented similar procedures in recent years. That UAHS has been one of the last to close its lunch, and I mean, I think that it could provide some safety if operated correctly, but I think that the way it's been implemented in phasing out open lunch rather than simply closing it all at once, I'm not sure what kind of effect that's going to have on safety, because I mean, we're still having people go in and out of the building. Another issue that's quickly going to arise from there, I think, is the fact that while the new school is being built in order to accommodate four classes of students having lunch across 2 periods, our current school is most definitely not built for that. It was built with the idea of open lunch in mind, and because of that, we're increasingly going to have more and more cramped lunches. I'm already noticing this as I'm coming down the hallway in front of the cafeterias. It's become incredibly clogged since these procedures were implemented, and I'm particularly worried about what that's going to mean, 3 years down the road, when we're the only class that's left coming in and out of the building, and 3 classes worth of freshmen, sophomores, and juniors are all trying to eat lunch at the same time.
There's no way that they can fit 500 to 600 people in those 2 cafeterias at one time. It's not physically possible.
We've seen efforts, I think, at least, I'm not entirely sure if this was why they rearranged the lobby, but I know they did add some extra seating in the lobby. They added the tables against the gymnasium wall, and I believe that that's an attempt to add some extra space for the closed lunch students, but I don't know how effective that's going to be.
And they did open a new line in the West Cafeteria to sort of handle the traffic there. However, I just don't think it makes us any safer, because if we look at school shootings, a lot of them have been perpetrated by people or by students who either go to that school or know someone who has been in that school. Look at Newton, look at Parkland. A lot of the school shootings are by students. So the ID check, I think that does nothing.
I think that implementing some sort of random search procedure, and I know people will criticize this for being incredibly severe, which it is, but I think that unfortunately we're kind of living in a world at this point where severe procedures are necessary. But I think that implementing some sort of random search procedure might be beneficial.
So like 5 students come in and 1 out of every 5 students is randomly searched?
At least as far as just their backpack or their locker. I mean, I know they in the student handbook, the administration and the staff is technically permitted to search lockers, but I don't know if they do that.
And of course there is an hoco parenti, and so the school can act in place of the parents and go through students' belongings. And I think that that would be an interesting thing to think about.
I don't know if it would work at all, and I don't know what the student reaction would be, but I think it's something to think about.
I mean, we can't have airport security.
No, absolutely not.
That because
where is the line?
Yeah.
Is the question.
And I mean, just you wouldn't be able to check that much people in a span of 20 minutes, because I'd say most people get to school around 7:30, 7:40, and classes start at 8. And so in that time period, I don't think you can check all 1,500 students and staff coming into the building.
Now, as far as the ID checks go, I don't know if it does that much for safety, but I do think that it's a good procedure to have implemented for attendance purposes, because the attendance office, the manually checked in and out attendance office, is prone to error, and not that the ID checks aren't, but I think that having a computer maintain record of what students are in and out of the building, while it may not provide extra safety measures to students who are in the building, I think it is useful to the school to have a working record of the students who are out of the building.
Well, I do agree with you somewhat. However, the problem is you don't scan out as you're leaving the building, so the computer has no way of knowing when you left. It only knows that you've left once you scan back in.
I think yeah, I know I've seen them setting up their scanner prior to lunch, and I don't know if people actually use it to scan out. I don't know to what extent that's enforced, but I did myself scan out when I recently left 2 Fridays ago, when I left for Toledo, New York.
I see. So I've left the building during lunch. I went into the courtyard. You were there as well, but I don't think we didn't scan out there.
No,
so are
we
you
didn't.
technically supposed to scan out?
I think you may be supposed to, but there's only one scanner and an influx of students going. Would that be an outflux? There's an outflux of students leaving the building at that time, so I don't know how many of those students actually scan their IDs. But
yes.
I think if with a smaller margin of error, it does have its use. I mean, there's no way to know exactly what the effects would be, but I think it does have its purpose.
I think another system to consider would be having the scanners at all entrances, and when you press your ID there, it can open and close. Well, you would press, you would scan yourself to unlock the door so you can leave, and you would do the same thing.
I had actually thought about this.
Back in, so all exits and entrances could be used rather than the 2 or 3 they have open right now.
I'm not sure if they have these at the high school, but I do know at Hastings, at least, and at the elementary schools, they have staff RFID badges that will scan open the doors, and I think that putting that on student ID cards could be beneficial, because I mean, with students being discouraged from opening doors, I know that that's spurred complaint among some students. Not that it isn't a prudent measure, but I think it would be very useful if the ID check system were combined to allow unlocking of the doors.
And, this way we wouldn't have the whole opening the door debate, because all students would have their ID, and so if they can't open the door, it means they're not a student. So don't open the door for them.
I think we lost a light. If you're watching this on YouTube, sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, folks. Being in the class of 2021, we will be the last people to be in
to graduate from this
school.
building. Yeah.
Yes, and I believe the current high school was built sometime in the 1940s, so that's pretty old now, about 70 years.
So that sounds about right.
And So, what do you think about the new building that's being built?
I haven't actually seen any of the designs for it. I would like to, if there's a way that that's available, but I'm not sure if there is. But I think that building obviously the larger cafeterias will be nice considering the closed lunch procedures. I think that getting a large cafeteria is at least somewhat of a consolation prize for that. I don't actually know. Do you know? How much do you know about the new building? I don't know a lot.
Well, I know that construction will be starting this spring.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I've heard, and I believe the main entrance is going to be on Zollinger, and so they'll be tearing down the football field in the spring and those athletic facilities such as the lifting room. I've heard rumors that we will be getting an Olympic-sized swimming pool.
Really?
I don't know how true or credible these are, but I have heard that would be very nice. You know, being on the water polo team, we do have our pool isn't really as wide as a lot of.
I've never actually been in an natatorium.
Really.
No, I've never been past the lobby. I've never gone down into that athletic wing.
I do think the natatorium, though, is a newer addition to the building. I think it was probably built in the 70s. The architecture, the ceiling beams look very 70s-like, so I don't think that's from the 40s. It is definitely newer. However, it would be nice to get a new pool, a wider pool, because this one only has about 6 lanes, 25 meters by 6 lanes, so it would be nice to have a wider pool.
Now, I know that the construction has brought up concerns about senior parking. I've heard a lot of different things from different faculty members and different students. I'm not entirely sure which is exactly correct. I'm not even entirely sure if anyone knows for sure. What do you know about this? Is it decreased senior parking, lack of senior parking? I'm not entirely sure.
No, I don't know anything. This is purely speculation at this point, but I think that the senior parking would probably remain. As far as I know, only the athletic fields are being demolished at this point, up to the tennis courts and the baseball field, and so nothing further than that is being demolished, as far as I know. However, this might not be the case, and if there is indeed a removal of senior parking, I think the school should implement busing. Because
do you know any people that would be willing to take a school bus as a senior, though? I mean,
I don't know any
there's
people,
a reputation factor that goes on there.
There is, but if there is no way for seniors to drive themselves, I mean, we can't just have 1,500 parents.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at like Mount Holyoke, that's already, completely full by like 7:40.
Yeah.
So,
and
that's with senior parking.
I mean, right now you have roughly half of the sophomores and all of the freshmen being dropped off to the school, and even then there's a huge line of cars waiting to drop people off. If you did all 4 classes, there's no way that would work. And so I think that there would have to be alternate transportation measures provided by the school to compensate for the loss of parking.
I think that would be reasonable. Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining the conversation, Ryan.
Thank you very much for having me.
Join us next week for another episode of the Fireside Cast. Major funding for the Fireside Cast has been provided by Serpent Cinematography,
Evolved Turtle Productions,
TV Productions,
and the Combat Robot Kev Foundation, empowering robotics engineering since 2016.
And by contributions from listeners like you. Thank you.
If you'd like to sponsor an episode and have your name mentioned in the end slate, contact a cabinet member for further information. and you can find more episodes of the Fireside Cast on YouTube, iTunes, SoundCloud, and IGTV. Yeah.
Yeah.